Good morning, folks. I hope you're doing fantastic. We are back with another Elden Ring reaction video, and folks, I was planning on switching to Color Theory, Tarnished Archaeologist, some of those other ones, recommendations you've given me, but I did a huge deep dive over the weekend, research-wise. I didn't watch any videos without you, I promise. I did a huge deep dive, and it looks like Tarnished Archaeologist stuff, which I am very interested in, I am going to do. It looks like it would be best to do that episodically, so I'm going to put all of that together later. Color Theory is 2 hours long. There was another recommendation that was like 4 hours long. I am very interested. I am going to do them, but I think they deserve kind of their own week in their own section. And since a lot of you still really want the VaatiVidya's stuff, I went through, kind of classified all his stuff, and it looks like the rest of his videos, I think there's 10 or 12 more, all of which cover topics I'm interested in. So I'm going to finish all of VaatiVidya's first. VaatiVidya's videos. Damn it. So close. VaatiVidya's videos. I'm going to finish all of Vaati's. I'm going to watch Vaati's first. Vaati's VODs. That doesn't get better. I got to talk to him about that. Anyway, folks, I'm going to watch all of Vaati's stuff first. I promise I am then going to keep watching this content. I'm going to watch Tarnished Archaeologist. I am going to do the Color Theory, Maxwell's Scrunchy, like all of the stuff you guys have sent me. Please keep sending them. I keep a whole list. It is a super awesome list. And I've actually now put hyperlinks and huge Excel spreadsheet. I nerded out about it, I promise. So make sure to send that to me. And for those who don't know, I am currently playing Sekiro. I'm live streaming that on Twitch and YouTube. And once I finish all of the Elden Ring lore, I am going to come back for all of the Sekiro lore videos. And then Bloodborne is down the list. When I get to that, I will do the same thing for Bloodborne. Armored Core 6 has made its way onto my list. And then the Dark Souls trilogy, Lies of P, and Black Myth Wukong as well, though I don't know if they're going to have as big a lore videos. But the point is, I'm having fun with these. I'm enjoying them. If you're enjoying them, I'm going to keep doing them. So, that all being said, let's get into today's video. This is VaatiVidya's The Lore of Elden Ring is Eternal. Which, these videos kind of feel that way sometimes.
This moment in Elden... I think everyone had this moment in Elden Ring. You find a building hidden in the forest of Limgrave's Mistwood.
Yes, the elevator.
And the door mysteriously opens of its own volition to reveal an elevator down that just keeps going.
So, I mean, I'm sure Vaati is building this because he's making it a relatable memory. But, folks, I know this happened to you. This definitely happened to me because chat... You can tell whenever chat blows up about, like, I wanted to see... I couldn't wait to see a reaction to this. That everyone had these reactions. When this elevator kept going and then opened into an entire underground world with a starry sky, I think my jaw hit the floor. I was just like, what? It was this simultaneous overwhelming of, oh my god, this world is so much bigger than I thought. I'm never going to finish this game, while also being like, this is beautiful. Who cares if I ever finish this game? Like, I'm sure the Germans have a word for that.
And going on and on until you forget that you're even underground. The cavernous roof is now so far above that it might as well be a false night sky. And the world below has life, light, and a culture of it.
So that one's actually not from that scene right there is from like a third drop down you do later on. That takes forever to get to.
Its own. But what's interesting about the environment down here is that it's actually a fusion of cultures. There are the dynastic remains infested with claymen.
Yep.
And then there's the ancestral grounds brimming with wildlife. But built amidst it all, between the ruins, beyond the ancestral grounds, and even hanging from the ceilings, are the incredible eternal cities inhabited by the Nox. For now, think of the Nox as just these enemies, the monks, swordstresses, and night maidens of the eternal cities. The word Nox means night in Latin. Some of you might remember this from the phrase Verio Nox in Dark Souls, which was commonly held to...
The literal translation of Verio Nox is more akin to, I as the night am afraid, which is widely considered a mistake by the writers. Credit to Antonio Augusto for the translation.
...mean fear the night. And this theme has carried over to Elden Ring, where fear and respect for the night is conveyed by characters like Ranni, who seek to usher in an age of stars.
Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond. Into fear, doubt, and loneliness.
And just like the Age of Dark in Dark Souls, the coming Age of Stars is presented as a bit of an inevitability in Elden Ring. Or at least it might have been, were it not for Star-Scourge Radahn, who locked the stars out of motion and fettered the fate once writ in the night sky on behalf of the Golden Order. Again, this is just like in Dark Souls, where the coming Age of Dark was stolen from mankind by a greater power. Yet, even now, the Age of Stars continues to be championed by a people called the Nox. Except now, the Nox have been banished to the underground, and here they live in this state of eternal anticipation, just endlessly waiting for a fate that has been taken away from them. We're never explicitly told which act it was that led to the Nox's banishment, but my best guess is that it has to do with this, the Fingerslayer Blade, which we loot beneath the giant's throne in Nokron. A part of its description reads, this
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, the Fingerslayer Blade, I mean, the Golden Order takes that not awesome. Yeah, and this flavor text covers it. This blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the Eternal City and symbolizes its downfall. I mean, from what we've seen so far, and I'm sure, again, I know Vaati's about to cover this, but from everything we've seen of the Golden Order, every time you poke them, they respond with overwhelming force. It's kind of their whole thing, and it's one of the things that ultimately brings about, you know, the seeds of their own downfall, which again is mirrored in real life too. There's only so long you can just oppress everyone in existence before the cracks start to form. There's a limit to how long, you know, dynasties and empires can last.
Blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the Eternal City and symbolizes its downfall. So, what was the nature of the Nox's high treason?
So, just side note here. Did somebody carve all of these, let's call them motifs? Or are those people who just kind of merged into the wall? Because there are a lot. You know, a Tarnished Archaeologist might cover this when we get to that. But there are a lot of instances where when I'm playing Elden Ring, and Uncharted for that matter, like I react to the world around me because the world around you kind of reflects what the world is. I know, crazy. And in Elden Ring, in a lot of games like it, there's always this, they do such a good job with these motifs and this aura and this environment. But if you look closely, you're kind of like, what? And now with Elden Ring, one of the reasons Elden Ring is so beautiful is because when you look closely and you go, what? If you dig deeper, there is a reason. It isn't just like haphazard stuff there for vibe checking. It is really meaningful. And so I'm only like half sarcastic when I ask what the deal is with these, because I'm sure there is a known deal with it. It's one of the things I like. You know, I'm really kind of enjoying this every time. I just get to keep pausing these images and like just being like, so like someone explain this to me, and then I get to come back in 24 hours and have the comments with all of you, you know, just explain to me what the hell's going on. And I gotta say, folks, you know what? Shout out to all of you. Not just, and this is meaningful. I'm gonna be serious for a moment because this actually does matter to me. Shout out to all of you, not for being lore experts, not for, you know, engaging, not for being all of you, for demonstrating an overwhelming majority of you. Like, sincerely, 99+% of comments with these videos, an overwhelming majority of you demonstrating how to communicate respectfully. Whether you're agreeing with what I'm saying or agreeing with someone else, whether you're disagreeing with what I'm saying or you're disagreeing with with someone else and having debates, and I'll call them debates, not arguments, debates in the comments. I genuinely don't think I have ever seen a pocket of the internet so capable of disagreeing respectfully. And that is not a small thing. That is not a, oh, shucks, that's so nice. No, that is really meaningful. Like, as a content creator, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'll have a take that's lukewarm at best. I have plenty of hot takes that those are going to get me in trouble, and I know that. But I've had plenty of lukewarm takes, and people are just insane. Like, just the notion that you don't agree with them. So sincerely, folks, like, take a moment and pat yourself on the back. Get a back stretcher and just, like, really get in there. That's an image I probably should have put on the internet. Good God. But seriously, take a moment and appreciate how well you all communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your theories in such a respectful environment. This could not be as deep and engaging and wonderful a community if people couldn't grow from each other's perspectives. I feel like sincerely, I worked in a library for 6 years. I have a master's degree. I've spent time in this space. It feels like academics passionately discussing their thoughts without taking insult or offense when other people have thoughts. I think it's Aristotle that the mark of an intelligent mind is the ability to entertain a notion without agreeing with it. This idea that you can listen to someone else's theory and not agree with it, but you can still entertain it. And I know this is a super big tangent, but this is something that should Overwatch. Is that a word? It's a word, but is it the word I was looking for? Something that should encapsulate? No. Overshadow? No. We're going to get there. Hang in there. Something that should hover? No, that's not it. Oh. All right, we're going to back up. We're going to try this again with a different syntax. This is something that should be... Damn it, it's not there. I've got nothing. My train of thought has been derailed. Thousands of imaginary thoughts dead. All of you should be focused on the idea of how impressive this community is for its ability to communicate respectfully. It's a really big deal. Like, my inability to find the poetry and prose I was looking for to explain it irrelevant to the task. It is genuinely very impressive. Now, somebody tell me what the fuck is going on with these horrifically creepy statues. Also, fun fact, I don't want this art in my home. Please stop sending this to my P.O. box. Lunatics.
Reason, then. Well, this is a finger slayer blade, one that is able to harm the greater will and its vassals. This blade is drenched in blood and proof of high treason, so it seems like the weapon was successfully used. But
I mean,
we
any
can only
good
really
knife is
speculate
drenched in
on
blood.
which pair of two fingers this blade might.
Okay, seriously? The first time I got up to one of these and found like the dead two fingers, I genuinely, like, I was kind of goofing around. Like, I was playing the game for entertainment. I wasn't like 100% focused on the lore. I genuinely did not realize this was dead two fingers. I just, like, I connected it to the Golden Order, but I didn't think too much about it. I was like, I didn't think about it like, oh, clearly this is a dead two. I mean, I know it now. Look, I'm admitting my mistakes. Okay.
Have been used on. Of course, it might have just been high treason to create this blade in the first place.
Sorry, pausing again. Folks, as someone who's held a lot of weapons, daggers, swords, cudgels, mallets, flails, halberds, spears, anything like that, that does not look remotely comfortable to hold. In fact, I would go so far as to say that would hurt. That would hurt every way imaginable to hold and use that. So, just fun fact, there's a reason people wrap leather around these janky things.
This weapon is said to be born of a corpse, so let's take a closer look at its icon. Doing so reveals a spine running up the blade and two arms that form the hilt. So clearly this weapon is born of a corpse, but it's not the only weapon in-game that's like this. Remember that moment at the end of the game where the Elden Beast reaches into the ground and pulls a sword from Radagon's corpse? That is the Sacred Relic Sword, and it too is a spined spiral blade with a human forming the hilt. So to some in this item's description, this weapon represents the end of an age, and to others, the beginning. Now,
it's the literal definition of a transition, by the way.
kind of doubt that the Finger Slayer blade is made from a corpse that's as powerful as Radagon, just because it seems so much smaller, broken, and limp. But regardless, it clearly was an attempt to bring about the end of one age and the beginning of another. Just so, the Finger Slayer blade can only be wielded by Ranni, who needs the weapon to claim her fate and achieve her ending. But this can only happen when you defeat Radahn and unlock the fate in the night sky.
Wow, missed with like 80%
doing so
of that
sets
fire.
free a star from the cosmos, which crashes into Limgrave, revealing the path to Nokron, the Eternal City, where the Finger Slayer blade lies hidden.
So I still have about -2, carry the 1. A billion questions regarding the stars. I asked some of them in the last one. I got some good comments on it. And it still doesn't make sense to me, this idea of holding back the stars. And now people have posited that, well, he's not actually holding back the stars. It's that all of the things like Astel and others that are star-like entities are afraid to move because they don't want to call Radahn's attention. So it's less that he's genuinely halted, you know, the orbit, which would have cataclysmic reaction to planetary bodies, but rather that everything's been put on watch now to not move if they can move. And so they're all just like, they're just going to wait for Radahn to do his thing. And then after, you know, we defeat Radahn, then this meteor that's been held in the sky crashes into Nokron. And then presumably this meteor wasn't just a meteor, because then it would be once again planetary, like inanimate planetary bodies that were being held, which begs that whole question again about physics, because it gets like the physics and the magic and the scope of it gets so confusing, and I get really lost in that question. Am I digging too deep against the guardrails of Let It Go? Or is there genuinely good questions there? Or is there something I'm not understanding that then makes it make more sense? Because I do agree, like, if we tie this all back to the idea that Ranni is unable to pursue her destiny because because the stars are halted, it becomes interestingly literal in the fact that once we defeat Radahn, the meteor from the stars crashes, opening the way to Nokron, which we need for the Finger Slayer blade, which we need for her to defeat her like the fingers she's hunting down. Like literally the manifestation of her destiny, as opposed to this, you know, this metaphorical, this theoretical concept, which I think absolutely fascinating, but still begs my physics question about Radahn. That's all. Chapter 2. It's kind of funny that Chapter 2 is the 3 cities. What's Chapter 3 going to be? The 2 towers? I got to watch Lord of the Rings again.
There are multiple eternal cities that are spread widely across the lands between and located deep beneath the earth. First, we have the city of Nokron that lies beneath Limgrave. The entrance to this city is torn open by Radahn's meteorite when we explore it, so all of the foremost buildings are ruined, but they form the path leading to this undisturbed, multi-layered city that's sort of tucked behind the dynastic remains and the ancestral environs that were built here long before. Then there's Nokron's twin, the city of Nokstella, which is located beneath Liurnia. I think most people would have...
That's right. So I don't think I ever really properly isolated them as like fully distinct cities, almost like cities in the Underdark, like Menzoberranzan, Chetnasad, things like that, for Forgotten Realms fans. But this one, Nokstella, is where I got attacked by an animate ball, and Nokron is, like I said, the first one you get, and I think that's where we get the Mimicked here.
Got their first hint of this city when they wound up in the Ainsel River fighting the
feet. Folks, whenever you see giant feet in a From Software game, you are obligated to point and go, feet. It's a thing I'm starting. They're nice feet, too.
Dragonkin soldier of Nokstella, but the true city is further up from here.
Sorry, one more buzz. I have a clip of Mango Wife calling me, and while I was fighting that dragonkin guardian, and so like Mango Wife calls, you answer. So I'm answering the phone, and I'm screaming like, "Yeah, what's up, honey?" And I'm like, "Oh God, yeah, okay." It's a really dumb clip, but Mango Wife loves it.
Stretching out between long sections of ant-infested tunnels. Here, the Nox have actually learned how to ride these ants, though the ants will happily turn on them if given the chance.
What? Hold on. Given the chance, how? First of all, there's... Okay, a couple things. Genuinely, first of all. Okay, now to the science, though. Number 2, why? These people sucked. How do I get the ants to betray them? Like, sincerely.
But there's a third city. A completely devastated, nameless city.
I never connected this. So this is, this one's under Lendel, or right by, Lendel, and it's corrupted and it's messed up. I think it's the first time I saw those death geckos. I never connected this as another one of the Eternal Cities. I mean, again, contextually, when you think about underground, it makes sense. There's even a finger crone down here next to one of the avatars of the Erdtree, or the fake Erdtree. The ones with the big mallets that hit you, which, admittedly, that does not narrow down much of Elden Ring's list. But the tree thingies, I don't know what I'm doing.
Located beneath Lendel, which is a place we'll have to talk about a little bit later in this video. These three cities just have incredible architecture. I love Nokron's massive inverted towers.
So the inverted towers, again, earlier I'd referenced Menzoberranzan. For anyone who's not familiar with Forgotten Realms, with R.A. Salvatore, and with the Dark Elves, genuinely encourage it. I grew up on the books. They're beautiful. R.A. Salvatore used to be a bouncer, so he's really good. His writing is really good in terms of, combat and a visual thing you can actually feel like you understand. They're not particularly complicated books. They're good versus evil, and they do explore a lot of motifs and other things along the way that I genuinely love. But the point of it is the War of the Spider Queen in particular is all about the Dark Elves who are in this underground city, and they build into these stalactites. Stalactites C is ceiling, stalagmites G is ground. That's how I remember them. Unless I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm wrong. That'll destroy my reality. But so these inverted city, I loved this to death because conceptually this is something I have always found unbelievably cool. That was a very unnecessary rant.
And it's cool how Nokstella's shining city is built right into this low-hanging false night sky. Now, the game isn't really clear on whether these cities existed before the Nox's banishment underground, or if they were built afterwards. However, I'm inclined to think that they actually existed before their banishment. Take the Fingerslayer Blade's description, for instance. This weapon is the most likely reason for the Nox's banishment, and it lays the high treason at the feet of the Eternal City. It doesn't blame the Nox, who would have existed above ground at some point. It blames the Eternal City. But regardless, while they at least might have already had these well-developed cities down here, their banishment was still a brutal punishment, because the Nox would have been cut off from the true night sky, which was a core part of their culture. As some small comfort, I speculate that they created these false night skies, which are made of suspended white fragments. This they accept as they wait for the Age of Stars to begin. In order to learn more about these cities, though, I'd like to look at some data mined information. Of course, you have to take this with a grain of salt, but in version 1.0 of Elden Ring, the Eternal City buildings are frequently listed as Marika's Ruins, and the Eternal City pavilions are Marika's Pavilions. What's more, the Nox themselves are actually called Marika's Descendants. This obviously has pretty huge implications, so let's try to break down Marika's ancestry and see if we can arrive at the Nox.
So we're going to listen to Vaati's thoughts on this, but the reason he's clarifying, take it with a grain of salt, is a lot of early developer notes. I mean, I'm even just sourcing, how I name some of my content videos. Everyone at work has made this, draft 1, draft 2, final 1, final 2, final. But now imagine you're working with assets like this, and the early concept was that these cities were going to be, this was going to be Marika's city. And then 2 years later into development, they're like, yeah, no, it's not going to be that. We've built out the story completely differently. But the asset in the game still has an old one. And they're not going to go back and reclassify these every time, because it doesn't matter. Because nobody in front of the game is going to see any of that. You don't have to fix it. It's not client side. It's not customer facing. The players will not see it. And so that's why he's saying you have to be careful taking data mined things, because they don't always reflect reality. So just the heads up on that for why we're being cautious.
So, Marika herself is of the Numen race, who, according to the character creation screen, are supposed descendants of denizens of another world.
It's got to be a Numenorian reference.
The only other supposed
Rings,
Numen
right?
in-game are the Black Knife Assassins, who, according to their silver armor, were all women and rumored to be Numen, who had close ties with Marika herself. And we have proof that these Numen Black Knives were tied to the Eternal Cities.
They say the assassins who carried out the deed were scions of the Eternal City.
So if we take Roger at his word, then it seems like Newman are indeed tied up with the genealogy of the Eternal City, and that Marika herself is likely one of the Nox's ancestors. You could go as far as to say that Marika is actually from an Eternal City too. She is called the Eternal, after all. But again, remember, this is data mined information that we're not really supposed to know. But at any rate, while the Nox might be descended from the Newman, I think...
Does anyone have... So as we talk about Marika being descended from this, but also presumably Marika... I say presumably, I don't know. Presumably, you know, Marika was in power when the cities were slapped down because of the Fingerslayer Blade, because the Fingerslayer Blade only existed after Marika was in power, I think. So how could she be the descendant and the Punisher? It's a whole thing. So my question though is, I'm sure someone has built this. Do we have any that we like that are the beginning of the lands between and the key events along the way, like a timeline? Timeline, that's the word. Do we have a timeline with those key inserts like you see at museums, which by the way are awesome? Because that would be very helpful to kind of straighten things out. And I feel like realistically, we'd probably have to have like 5 timelines that are like, these are the 5 timelines that generally are accepted as the possible versions of events. Because I mean, there's not going to be one absolute.
Enough time has passed that most Nox aren't really considered
dead
Newman
peasant
anymore.
Stupid
If anything,
peasants.
they're now more akin to the Night Folk, which is actually another descendancy you can choose for your Tarnished in the character creator. Night Folk and Nox share similarly hued skin, and Night Folk are a race that was said to bleed silver long ago.
That'd be cool.
So let's finally actually talk about the Nox monks, the priestesses, the Night Maidens, and the silver that they wield. The monks of the Eternal Cities are all men, and they fight with flowing weapons of liquid metal. So too do the Swordstresses, a female caste of the Nox who are agile warriors and serve as the personal guards of the Night Maidens. The Night Maidens themselves are said to be of the highest clerical rank, and it's definitely interesting that a group of maidens would be of the highest clerical rank. It's almost as if the Night Maidens exist as a sort of parallel to the Kindling Maidens of the Two Fingers, who serve the Tarnished so that they might become Lord. Because remember, a core part of the Nox culture is also about searching for a Lord to serve. Except unlike the title Elden Lord, the Nox are waiting for a Lord of Night. In a way, this Lord of Night is almost an imitation of the Elden Lord, which...
So I'm pretty sure this... So off topic. I'm pretty sure this image here, this is based on Vike. But this image of Elden Ring, like this armor set, this style, and I mean the moon backdrop is obviously beautiful. The left hand dragon sigil with the red. This is probably one of the most iconic images I could imagine of Elden Ring. It's just some aura farming right there.
Would make sense because the Nox are extremely well versed in the art of imitation. So let's talk about that.
We are going to talk about that, but first, I don't think I ever meaningfully made the connection with liquid metal because I think I remember when the guy swung his mace at me, like my first time in Nocrun or Noxtella, whichever place I was in when it happened. Like, I was like, dodge, and then he hit me from like 16, football fields away, and I was like, what the shit? So liquid metal fundamentally changes the nature of the way they're able, because I mean, I'm like, why is this stuff extending? What is this rubber? But liquid metal makes a ton of sense because you've got the orbs, you have the little goo piles that are electric, which were fun and are also like shooting spears at me, and then you have the mimic tier. So basically, the Eternal City is the home of the T-1000, and I'm John Connor. Oh, that's why they're trying to kill me. It all makes sense now. How come Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't come to save me? Dude, that'd be the best cameo ever. You get to the Eternal City, you're getting your shit kicked in by this liquid metal assholes, and then you just hear, hasta la vista, baby. And Arnold Schwarzenegger comes in, just like kicks the Nox off the cliff, and just starts, wrestling with this gigantic orb. Oh my God. I need an animation of that now. I don't know how we got here, but if you're still here, hi.
I think I speak for a lot of us here when I say that a core part of so many of our late game playthroughs were the mimic tier spirit ashes, which copy the form of their summoner. And from a lore point of view, the whole point of this mimic tier is actually to mimic the tarnished who might become the Elden Lord. Its description reads, "Mimic tiers are a result of an attempt by the Eternal City to forge a lord." However, the description also says that their mimicry does not extend to imitating the summoner's will. This makes it seem like mimic tiers are this tool, right? They're something to be used to achieve the Eternal City's ends. So it's important to point out here that mimic tiers are actually more accurately silver tiers, and silver tiers literally are tools, because they're wielded by the Nox as weapons. The Nox flowing hammer and the Nox flowing sword are forged from the liquid metal of silver tiers and tempered to hardness. This gives them the ability to extend, bend, and when wielded by the Nox, to drastically change their form into spiked shields and even giant hands. And what's kind of chilling to realize is that these weapons are actually living beings. This is all quite clearly inspired.
It's kind of fun watching that happen to someone else. Is this why you assholes like watching me play this game? Because I fuck up literally every possible thing to fuck up, and you're all just going like, no, that was fun watching that happen to someone else. Because I get it now. Because, I mean, obviously this was telegraphed. It was coming a mile away, but I was like, do it. Fall on him. Yes. Yes. Ha ha ha. How do you like it? Which I don't know if that's a healthy emotion to have as a human being, but darn it all, I enjoyed it.
By ancient alchemical conceptions of mercury or quicksilver, which was this compound that was believed to be able to shift between liquid and solid states, as well as life and death. In-game, silver tiers are called formless life, able to be reborn again and again into imitation. They are as much a substance as they are a living organism, and we see this in their multitude of forms: silver spheres, trolls, and even nightfolk, to name but a few. There's even this entire cut questline that would have had you bond with a silver mimic tier.
Why would that be cut? So I was literally sitting here thinking, I feel like we missed out on a Nox questline. Because, I mean, the Ranni questline gets you down here, but a questline for deeper understanding of the Nox, I would have gone with a Nox itself, but with a mimic tier to have this bond and understand the nature of this liquid metal. And then, you know, even if you had the questline culminate in getting the mimic tier instead of just getting it from the fight. Ah! Missed opportunity.
Tier called Asimi. In the cut dialogue files, this mimic tier claims to have grown a desire for life and knowledge and lordship, and she desires to share the throne with you.
You could have become Elden Lord, and I could have become Sovereign Eternal.
I think, and I know a lot of you guys did as well when I mentioned this last time, I think this would have gone a really long way towards making players relate to the story of the Nox, and it would have made them question the Order of the Erdtree even more.
Yes.
And after learning about this questline, I can definitely see why mimic tiers and artificial life might have been this enormous threat to the Erdtree's authority.
The other reason I think, first of all, this should have been a full ending, and the reason I say that is not because, oh, everything has to exist, but because it adds more perspective to this idea that you know, what we choose is not right. It is simply what we choose. Because remember, I really struggled with the Duskborn. I really struggled with the dead people ending. Because someone in the comments gave the answer that being undead was illegal. Now being dead is legal, and I jokingly, I mean half jokingly said like this is the perfect concise answer because it is. That it's just like it. That's what it means. Is now undead is viewed as an acceptable form of life, and now you can agree with it, disagree with it, whatever. But I think of these mimic tiers, the Nox Society is the same thing as a version where, because everyone is just trying to find balance. Like the Frenzied Flame wants to burn everything to the ground because it's irredeemable and because fire like burn. The Golden Order wants to perpetuate its existence and maintain its power, holding on to nothing because there is no power left, but they're just trying to like hold it. And then everyone else is trying to regain basic rights. And now again, we're all predisposed to say, no, liquid silver probably doesn't need rights. It's crazy. Undead don't need rights. The Scarlet Rot doesn't need rights because we are predisposed to this human view of those things are unnatural. And now it doesn't make us bad people. You're not a bad person if those endings made you uncomfortable. It's not about, but it's, I think that's one of the opportunities to kind of challenge yourself and decide for yourself, you know, how you want to think about it. Because again, there isn't a right answer. These are very theoretical things. But to ask yourself, why is it bad to be undead? There's still perfectly rational reasons to disagree with it, but there's also reasons to say, well, we've always only said it's bad because of, you know, these things, but if it's done within this pretext of not disrespecting, you know, corpses, so to speak, I guess theoretically there's not anything really inherently wrong with it as long as it operates within these confines of, you know, respectable behavior and consent and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of the same thing with the liquid silver. It's the same thing with the Scarlet Rot. And it becomes a very, very interesting existential question as to what is and what isn't okay. And to circle all of us back to my original point, I would have loved this quest line that pursued an ending for the liquid silver because it just showcases everyone has stake in what's happening. And learning more about their attempts to create a lord with this mimic tier, I think it further even justifies this pursuit of them getting a quest line ending. Would have loved that. I also, like, they cut Kale's as well. We've talked about that, the merchant. Would have loved to see that one be a pursuit as well to really bring the merchants back. But anyway.
The Nox were, after all, messing with these crucial things that the Erdtree had come to govern. They were messing with the powers of life, death, and rebirth. Of course, we know that death was sacrosanct to the Erdtree during its age. As I discussed in my video on death, many ancient methods of death came to be abandoned or shunned.
So the lore of the Elden Ring bosses featuring Death's Kindred and then the Golden Order ones, those two are on my list. They were technically next in the order, but I wanted to start with these ones because they're a little more focused and I wasn't entirely sure what those ones are like about because I haven't watched these. I don't know. So if you really want to see those two, let me know and I'll go back and watch them before I continue the insane, blasphemous, foul, rotten, etc., etc.
In favor of returning to the Erdtree's roots instead, through the process of Erdtree burial. All the old ways of death were abandoned. And as for rebirth, well, the Erdtree is never really explicitly said to be able to rebirth beings. I think a lot of people just assume that it's implied, but there is a bit of evidence. Many depictions of the Erdtree actually show human forms growing along its branches, just as they show human forms being absorbed in death by its roots. And you can't forget that an entire great rune of the Elden Ring explicitly governs rebirth. This is Renala's Amber Egg, and inside it is the great rune of the Unborn.
In the end, Lady Renala was left alone, cradling the Amber Egg
Gotta love
Lord
Turtle, bro.
Radagon bequeathed her. Now she devotes herself to it through forbidden rite, the grim art of reincarnation.
I think Miriel calls Renala's reincarnation a grim act here, because reincarnation already has a bit of a history.
Brief side note. Anyone else watch like this intro and think Silent Hill? I need to play Silent Hill F, by the way.
With the Nox in the lands between. And Renala isn't the Erdtree, so I can see how what she's doing might be a bit sacrilegious. She's even capable of using larval tears from the Eternal City, so Miriel, speaking as any follower of the Erdtree would, understandably decries Renala's rebirths
Dude's
as
hat game.
forbidden rites.
10 out of 10.
And when I searched for this phrase, forbidden rites, in my dialogue spreadsheet, I stumbled upon cut dialogue from Thops, who confirms that forbidden rites like this did indeed originate in the Eternal City. I don't think it's a coincidence that forbidden rites is the same phrase used for Renala, and
Thop is the guy just past Stormvale Castle who is trying to get back into the Raya Lucaria Academy, right? That's Thop, I think.
by Thops as well.
Oh, one more thing. Beware the Albinorics, accursed souls born of a forbidden rite of the Eternal City.
So, the Albinorics. Albinorics seem to be a reference to the ancient notions of artificial life, and that's something that's supported by the Albinoric blood clot description, which calls them life forms made by human hands.
I assume there was a cut quest line here as well, because they also have their perspective.
According to the Albinoric shield, Albinorics are said to have been created from a primordial drop of dew, which, to me, evokes the Erdtree's own imagery of dew, where drops of life dripped from the Erdtree's branches. It's sort of imitation in that way to me. The ripple blade that is wielded by young Albinorics echoes this, stating that
He's about to say it, but the sword is modeled after the ripples that are thought to be the origin of their species.
Ripples are thought to be at the origin of their species. Obviously, these are all references to liquid, and it suggests that Albinorics are born of the same liquid silver that we just discussed.
I was going to say, I'm not following. But all... So basically, the liquid silver is this, pure, flexible mutation, whereas the Albinorics, both the Gen 1 and the Gen 2, the crazy, tall, lanky Stretch Armstrongs, and the Frog People, which are the Gen 2, based on comments people have told me before, I thought the mask was a construction, not a hollowed-out person. Anyway, not important. So theirs are like they've created a firm, immutable form in the form of a homunculus. Okay, that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm following the logic. I'm not condoning it.
An older description of the blue silver set also confirms this, calling Albinorics children of silver. And there are a few different types of Albinoric that can be encountered in-game. There are first-generation Albinorics who have withered legs and are called the Albinorics of old. And then there are second-generation Albinorics who resemble frogs and are called the young Albinorics. Let's discuss these first-generation Albinorics first. As far as enemy models go, there are the men, who are commonly the subject of torture and genocide, and then there are the women, who seem to have learned to defend themselves as Albinoric wolf.
I don't think I connected that they were just the same. I gotta be honest, I genuinely didn't understand why Latenna... I just assumed Latenna had, busted legs, and so she just couldn't move. Okay.
Back archers. This is probably a good time to mention, this isn't the only example in this video where the women of the culture are far more dexterous than the men. All of the Black Knives are women. The Nox swordstresses defend the Knight Maidens, who are of the highest rank. And if we're talking about rank, then Caria and its princesses as well are a prime example of that.
This is a good time to talk brief. I'll try to be brief, not my forte, about gender norms in video games. And one of the things Elden Ring does so unbelievably well is the writing does not care if you're a man or a woman. The characters are written to be characters, and then their gender just kind of falls into place. And because they don't start with, oh, well, this has to be a woman, and then make a woman character. They make a character, and it happens to be a man or it happens to be a woman. And when you're making video games, you can do that, especially in a fantasy game. In a fantasy game, you don't have to follow any tropes. You can have matriarchal societies, patriarchal. You can have liquid silver people, and you can have 2 generations of frogs. It's a fantasy game. You don't have to subscribe to shitty gender norms that we have created as societal constructs. And now, before people think this rant is going to become excessively political, the point is you can create a lot of the fairness and balance that doesn't exist in the real world in a video game while still making a video game that goes out of its way to show all of the imbalances. You get to choose where the imbalances are. We see oppression everywhere. Genocide, racism, all these problems. We see, but the characters don't have to be unrealistic tropes of gender norms. And it's done so well that everyone can be strong. You can balance out some of these societal norms and still watch everyone be great characters, shitty characters, medium characters, because their gender just isn't what drives that. And it's nice to see that stripped out so that you can see the pure reality that people are people, and it doesn't have to be, you know, this stereotyped setup, and you can still have great story and flaws and benefits and everything. So I one of the things I really love about this game, because I really struggle with like gender, I'll call it mistakes in video games, where they just put everyone into tropes. And it's not, I want to be clear, it's not virtue signaling, it's not some altruism. I like to think I'm reasonably altruistic, but it's not altruism, it's pragmatism. It's, if the game doesn't look natural, if it looks fake and stereotyped and tropish, it really pulls me out of the game. I would refer you to Uncharted 4, which currently the internet is upset with me about, because I said Nathan Drake is poorly written, and then they're like, oh, you don't know. By the way, you want to summon man babies, folks? If you want to summon man babies, for the women out there and men, anyone who's got a partner in their life who plays Uncharted 4, ask them why Nathan Drake lies to his wife, and if they defend it, get out of that relationship. All right, I'm off topic now. We're moving on.
Speaking of Karya, actually, Pidia is an example of an Albinoric man that serves Karya, and other Albinoric men in Karya have clearly learned glintstone sorcery, not to mention Loretta, but maybe that's the story for another time. Moving on to the second generation Albinorics. As newer Albinorics in the lands between, the formula for these artificial humans seems to have been improved, as they now have legs, which they put to...
Okay, first of all, cartwheels, yes. Second of all, we're not even 20 minutes into this video, and I have 45 minutes of footage. Folks, I'm going to shut up for a little bit, because I must be on a rant today.
Comically good use, although Thops in his cut dialogue does say that they've lost the use of their tongues. So they really haven't got the formula quite right. There's something also going on with their heads, which From Software themselves call dumpy and frog-like. You can even loot the Albinoric mask, which is literally just their own face, skinned in an act of malicious mockery. And I really
did not know that's what it
but
was.
It is kind of funny, admittedly, that even Elden Ring players are also guilty of genociding helpless Albinorics. Yep. There's this site in Mogwin Palace where it's just far and away the best way to farm runes, and thousands...
The second I saw this, I mean, remember, I've been using Star Scourge's Call the entire game because I just loved it. So you literally just run in there and then just boom, one-shot everything with, you know, the power of Radahn.
Tons of players just kill these Albinorics over and over again, and it's just the perfect example of gameplay matching lore. Anyway, with all of this terrible shit happening to Albinorics, frankly, just for the sheer audacity of them simply existing,
oh yeah,
it's no surprise that they see Miquella's Erdtree as a haven, but in talking about that, we're getting far away from the Eternal Cities, so let's get back to there.
Yeah,
so
Vaati, stay
it
on
appears
task.
the Eternal Cities weren't content
Can you
with
imagine
just
someone
birthing
detouring like that?
Silvertears and Albinorics, because the Dragonkin, too, were born in the Eternal City. There are a tragic few that you can fight down there, and unlike the real stone dragons up above, they knew no true sky nor true lightning. It seems these Dragonkin were created, I think, with the intent of achieving a sort of immortality. Something that is suggested by the Dragon Scale Blade, which is an ice lightning weapon that reads, a weapon made by sharpening a gravel stone scale, thought to be the source of ancient dragons.
I don't recognize this sword. Like, ice lightning, like, that's my jam. And I think that's super cool. All right, I got to find that for my next playthrough. I want to do a Moonveil. Shut up, Mango.
Dragon immortality into an unclouded blade. Alas, the Dragonkin soldiers never attained immortality and perished as decrepit, pale imitations of their skyborn kin. There's the word imitation again. And interestingly, just like the Fingerslayer blade is this hidden treasure of the Eternal City that is capable of harming the Greater Will, ancient dragon smithing stones, too, are a hidden treasure of Faram Azula, capable of creating weapons that can slay a god. So, like so many other things in this video, the Dragonkin almost seem like they are imitations that were born with a malign purpose. But just like Renala's children, and the first-gen Albinorics, these imperfect births.
When these things were trying to kill me, I don't think I properly appreciated how goddamned ugly they are. Can I say that? Is that mean? I mean, I murdered them all, so I can I don't know. What's the rule on talking shit about something you killed? I hope there's not a good baseline of people to answer that question, honestly. You know what? Forget that part. Let's ignore it. Let's ignore my sociopathy. Is that psychopathy or... Moving on.
Only led to withered legs and a pitiful existence.
Eternal
And
darkness.
now we finally arrive at the third city, the nameless Eternal City, which is located deep beneath the Erdtree at the deep-root depths, and it's lost its sky, its name, and even all traces of the Nox. And I believe we know exactly what is to blame for all of this. Astel, bastard of the Void, is responsible. According to Astel's remembrance, it is a malformed star, born in the lightless void far away. And with all the force of a falling meteor, it seems, Astel destroyed an Eternal City and took away their sky. Logically, this nameless Eternal City is that Eternal City he destroyed, since it's absolutely devastated and it is missing its false night sky. And when the description says Astel took away their sky, I believe that's really literal. I think Astel really did take it away,
absorbed it.
far away. Because we don't fight Astel anywhere near the nameless Eternal City, we fight it way further south. Almost as if Astel ruined the nameless city, then flowed all the way down the Ainsel River to the south, past Noxtella, and into an enormous cavern where it set up a suspiciously familiar night sky. The Eternal Darkness spell.
That son of a bitch took my sky. Can you imagine that line being delivered sincerely?
Tells us that it's this manifestation of the despair around the ruin of the Eternal City, and the spell in question is essentially this black hole with a powerful gravitational force drawing everything into it. The Astel don't seem like these super sentient beings to me, so what if they were mere animals just drawn towards a sort of black hole, or maybe towards another power?
I guess so. For me, they don't seem intelligent at all. Like, they're very bestial in nature. I've always assumed they're just, I mean, it's just a star roaming creature that happened to get here, similar to the falling star beasts, like with the tail in the craters. You either know what I'm talking about or you don't know what I'm talking about. Either way, we're moving on.
Powerful gravitational force, like a moon. Which brings us back to the city of Noxtella. Exploring Noxtella's tallest towers rewards you with the legendary Moon of Noxtella talisman, a treasure of theirs that represents the lost Black Moon.
I remember
this moon apparently was once the guide of countless stars, and might have served as a sort of artificial moon below ground. But tragically, it seems this Black Moon was shattered into pieces, because fragments of this moon can be found in memory stones, which have a really similar gameplay function to the talisman, granting you additional memory slots. These stones are rightfully treasured by sorcerers, and above ground, towers evoking those of the Eternal City would be built to protect these precious artifacts. I'm not sure how these fragments were stolen from the city, though over in Nokron there are examples of foreign forces making incursions into the city. These beings are members of the Company of the Fallen Hawk, a company of slaves that were ordered to explore the Eternal City.
Nope.
Logically, these soldiers are slaves of the Golden Order, but who were the Fallen Hawks before their enslavement? Well,
I never noticed the crown-like dots around their head as if something was attached. Dude gives mean side-eye, though.
There's this one little theory that I quite like by user NoContribution15 on Reddit that suggests that these Fallen Hawks could have once been common soldiers of Stormvale Castle, because these soldiers once had hawk crest shields and even a Stormhawk king, dating back to ancient times, back when there was a true storm in Stormvale. And so, as the theory goes, the crest for this company became that of an inverted hawk, symbolizing their fall and perhaps referencing the inverted towers of the Eternal City
that is a really good theory.
They were doomed to explore. As for why they explore the city, the first thing that comes to mind is that they might have been sent here to look for the Finger Slayer Blade, which is the hidden treasure of Nokron, where the Fallen Hawks were sent, although this is mostly all just speculation. Whatever the case, it really helps to characterize these enemies for you.
That is not proper technique. Like, he's not using his back muscles at all. Like, look at the way he's hunching. Oh, man, he's going to end up with some real back pain if he keeps doing that.
Otherwise, the only other observation we can make is that many of the fallen hawks can be found digging hopelessly in the ground, hands bloodied by their long efforts to this day. Torches are an important part of their design, and this reinforces the idea that they're here looking.
Folks, look at that sconce, or the holder specifically for the flame. Is that a human skull that is the basis of the flame? Like look here, that looks like human teeth, orbital, nose. What the shit? I'm not crazy. That's a human skull.
For something, to the point where the band's last embers
100%.
were used up in their long search.
What?
And then they began to burn the bones of their fellows, acquiring the cold ghost flame. And with this new...
Vaati's calmly explaining this, and I'm like, I see something! I have a new theory no one has noticed before! I am a legend! Oh, he explained it. Oh, okay. Why are you still here?
Flame in hand, they became dwellers of the underground for all eternity. Like with the Fallen Hawks, there are some really open-ended parts to the stories of the Eternal Cities, some things that are curiosities to me, and I welcome you to try and answer them. For example, the giant thrones with the giant Nox skeletons on them,
I'm very
they're
curious.
almost a complete mystery, I think. The only place the game references these thrones are in the symbols for night sorceries and bubble sorceries as well. Beyond that, they're clearly a central part of Nox culture, though we don't know what purpose these beings had.
So the evidence I've seen, so from all of them I've seen, they're all in thrones, and they're all most visible piece of them, since, creatures in this game can't zoom out. The most visible thing is those tenderlicious feet. Exposed feet, I might add. I'm convinced the Nox were toe worshippers with a big foot fetish, and they were modeled after Miyazaki's own personal interests, and I respect that. I think it's important for us to celebrate our feet kinks.
Below each one, though, you can loot Great Ghost Glovewort, which were given in tribute to those who died the most glorious of deaths, in the hope their stories would become legend. So it seems the Nox not only venerated these beings with giant thrones, but that their spirits as well were considered to be heroic, for their deaths were glorious. Another curiosity is the distorted bodies that are found in the Eternal Cities. These erupt from the ground, and many buildings as well, of the Nox. Are these other inhabitants of the city? Are their deaths related to the giants? What are these? And finally,
I got there
are
20
the
minutes ago,
gargoyles
Vaati.
that are found in the nameless Eternal Cities, with misshapen, ruined bodies. None of these gargoyles have been mended, but those that are mended with black corpse wax, and they serve Malakath, the Black Blade. Many of you will remember that 2 valiant gargoyles defend the path from Nokron to the Deeproot Depths, where the nameless Eternal City
Since
is.
there's 2 of them.
And interestingly, it's a coffin that takes you up there, suspended on a golden
Someone please tell me there's like a 15-minute lore video just on these goddamn coffins.
script. This golden script reminds me of the description of the Cipher Pater, which reads, "The furtive inscription appears to hang in the air, the language of light spoken by the 2 fingers." It makes sense that the 2 fingers would be aligned with these gargoyles that serve Malakath, and maybe...
Sorry, backing up. Furtive script is a really interesting choice of words. So furtive means elusive, almost shy. So that's almost like a script that you can't quite, you can barely make it out because it's almost like flitting in out of existence. It's almost like evading your vision, which is a really interesting way of describing a written language.
some power of the 2 fingers is what takes you up to the nameless Eternal City in this coffin. Speaking of coffins, there's another coffin that you ride down from the Grand Cloister.
This was the first one.
Astel's lair. And
so chat had to push me on this one because, I got over there and didn't notice the, because I looked over this waterfall in, this is at the edge of the Lake of Rot. and I didn't. I looked over the waterfall, but didn't get close enough to the coffin to see the interaction button with it. And Chad had to be like, "Oh, you kind of missed something over there," and poke me on it because to everyone else, like a coffin is obviously like, because I was there, I would have, if I had known coffins were a thing, it would have been obvious. But I didn't because I haven't been indoctrinated into this, coffin travel setup of this game. So a good example of what chat was doing good backseating.
There are a ton of coffins found in the Eternal Cities in general. Beyond being some absurd method of transport, perhaps sending remains along the river
it is
was
absurd.
Some sort of burial rite. At any rate, many of these coffins have been waylaid along the Ainsel River tunnels where
I noticed this, but I didn't connect the concept. I didn't perceive this as being waylaid, which goes back to this idea that Vaati just said, that the coffin is perhaps, and going back to a reasonable theory for why these coffins exist, is it is the send-off, like putting someone in a boat and, letting them go over the waterfall kind of thing. This is their journey, to some next place, and stone coffins work differently in water in the lands between. That's fine. And so this is them traveling, but the ants are waylaying them along the way in this specific instance. That's actually really interesting.
ants feast upon the remains.
Yeah.
And there's something fascinating going on with the ants as well. A lot of these have these enormous abdomens. These ants in particular are based off honeypot ants, which essentially function in nature as these living sources of food storage for the colony. And the Elden Ring variant drop one of the most valuable runes in the lands between. They drop a Newman's rune, which makes a lot of sense because these ants are feasting upon corpses, and we did speculate earlier that Newman are indelibly tied to the Eternal Cities.
I don't recall Newman
I could speculate
rune.
further, but again, I'd welcome your thoughts on these curiosities.
As above, so below.
Exploring the lands between in the modern era, it's clear that the Eternal Cities have had this significant cultural impact upon many things that we find above ground. You can take the walking mausoleums, for example. These have really explicit Eternal City architecture, which is something that you can't help but notice when you see one of them wandering down in the nameless Eternal City. These mausoleums, it seems, were appropriated from the Eternal Cities to house the remains of soulless demigods of the Golden Order, something that suddenly became very necessary to do after Godwyn's death. And this tracks because the Eternal Cities do have a bit of a history with spirits. We mentioned earlier that they entomb their heroic spirits with legendary glovewort, but even the rebirth monuments above ground that you need to summon spirits look kind of like Eternal City constructs. So I speculate that these might have been pioneered by the Nox, who, even if they didn't use these to summon spirits, they definitely might have used them to summon puppets, because puppetry is an invention of the Eternal Cities. To create a puppet of someone, you need them to drink a potion made of starlight shards,
I don't think his neck's
which
okay.
are a prized item that was once used in the Eternal City as an ingredient in intoxicating draughts. Starlight shards are used for this because the stars command people's fates, and even the fates of the demigods, and so they can be used in potions given to create puppets with commanded fates. We know of 2 such puppets from the Eternal City, the Night Maiden and Swordstress puppets, who became puppets of their own volition. So keen were they, it seems, to serve the Eternal Cities. But when you look at all the puppet summons that you can get in Elden Ring, these 2, the Night Maiden and the Swordstress of the Nox, these 2 are a bit of a special case because most puppets we find are actually controlled against their will and are extremely unwilling to serve their masters. An excellent example of this are the puppets that are controlled by Seluvis, or should I say Pidia, who turn on him immediately when they're given the chance. These puppets are Knights of the Cuckoo, a faction that are explicitly aligned against Caria, and yet these knights are forced to fight on Caria's behalf here in Caria all the same. Carians also seem to have appropriated a lot of the tools of the Eternal Cities, like puppetry and inverted towers as well, which is only natural considering how much they actually have in common with the...
Puppetry is such a sanitized term. No, they're not slaves. They're just puppets. You know, they're just like dancing. Yeah, no. Oh, well, there's a little bit of stabbing. Yeah, and I mean, they've murdered allies, but like, no. It's not slavery. That's such an ugly term. No, they're puppets. Can you imagine trying to explain that?
Eternal cities. Carians are descended from astrologers who also venerated the night sky. Another example of an invention of the Eternal Cities that the Carians use is found at the Church of Vows, which features a Nox statue taken straight out of the Eternal Cities.
Oh yeah, this is where you get to... I never needed this. Chad had to explain to me like what the purposes was, because I was like, what is this? But that was where you repair relationships if you gotten on people's bad side. I didn't kill a single NPC.
Here at the church, Radagon famously repented his territorial aggressions and cleansed himself with celestial dew. Celestial dew is another draft of the Eternal Cities. It's called a night tier, which reverses all antagonizations and moves fate backwards, in a sense, to a time or a feeling
I'm sorry about all those
before
people I murdered.
antagonizations
Here's some
took place.
honeydew.
And eventually, faraway descendants of the Eternal would finally be found.
Folks, if you lasted this long, question of the day, honeydew or cantaloupe? There is a right answer.
Above ground as well. This is in Celia, within Caelid. Gowry calls Celians descendants of the Eternal, and in addition to having one of those signature thrones at the center of the city, there's also a couple of Nox bosses here. And finally, Celians were famed for their Knight class of sorceries, which their assassins made good use of. The Celians were also really proficient at turning invisible, which is an art that the Black Knives used, since they are, after all, also scions of the Eternal Cities, and it's just amazing how it all overlaps in the end. And in the end, another group would seek inroads to Nokron. This is when we play the game. These were Iji, Blythe, and Rani. Rani is a character that inherits a lot of the Nox's legacy. She becomes the final chapter in a story that they started to tell so long ago. Prepare to cry, because I can't wait to cover her story properly, as it deserves. But before I go, I want to share a quick word about Audible. Speaking of people banished to the underground, I actually have the perfect audiobook to recommend to you guys today, and that's...
So, folks, I watch the rest of this on my own, go through, the supporting cast, things like that, because I do think that's important. But I do know that's just not very interesting for all of you. So I'll cut it there for this video. Folks, I don't know how I doubled the length of this. So, I mean, good news is I've clearly established fair use. Vaati, thanks for the constantly good videos. Folks, we've got about 11 more of these. Let me know if there's a particular order you want me to watch the rest of these Vaati videos in. I will. And again, I am absolutely going to watch Tarnished Archaeologist, the color theory. I am going to watch all of those videos. I will break them up into pieces if I have to, because some of them are quite long. But I am going to do all of them because I'm genuinely just enjoying this. And I will say I love that you're enjoying it too. But this is fun. Like, I love this new coffee ritual, though I do think I need to bring more coffee. I ran out, and that makes me sad. Also, I need a new coffee mug. Not important. Folks, if you got this far and you are enjoying this, also make sure to remember, I stream from 3 to 9 p.m. UK time. I am playing Sekiro currently, Monday through Friday. So make sure to come check that out if you want to enjoy. Thank you so much for hanging out. Let me know what you want me to see next, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night, folks.